So there's absolutely nothing that I talk about on this podcast that I haven't been through myself. Most of the things that I say on here are things that I have dealt with, faced head on, learned the lessons, integrated those lessons, embodied them, and then come out the other side where I can talk about it. Because when I talk about it, once I've actually dealt with it, it comes from a place of me understanding where most people are, especially in dealing with certain tough situations, whether it's with breakups, friendships, relationships, just in general, making their lives better. All of those things, when someone has actually been through it and been to the other side, there's a more empathetic tone to it. And which is why I don't just talk about anything on here. And I hold off on talking about a lot of things because I sometimes don't feel like I fully embodied it. However, this episode is different. This episode is something that I am continuously working on. But even though there are a lot of lessons that I have learned from my presence on social media, being a creator over the last almost 7, 8 years, being a creator from different phases, from starting out as just a local content creator to then becoming a travel content creator, working with multiple different brands, and just kind of getting more comfortable with expressing myself online to then starting this podcast and then getting comfortable with just continuously putting myself out there, facing with the criticism that and the feedback and the hate that comes back. This has been a journey, honestly, from a very spiritual perspective as well, that has been so challenging, but also so rewarding. Because what I have learned about myself in this 6 to 7 years of being on social media and trying to post more consistently and trying to build a community, which I'm so proud of, there is a lot of misuse of these social media apps. And with anything in life, too much of anything is a bad thing, including water or food. Just too much of anything at all is just not good. And we have been, I think, from a young age, for the most part, when we're kids, where we have been kind of trained on how to take care of our hygiene, what kind of foods to eat, how much to eat. I mean, these are all things that we're kind of guided upon, right? And we kind of have a sense of understanding what's good for us, what's bad, habits you shouldn't do, things you shouldn't try. Don't go do drugs, don't drink alcohol. Like, I mean, these are certain things that we have just been raised, and we have a certain sense of awareness around it where we can choose for ourselves what we want to indulge in. However, when it comes to social media, because this space is just so new, and I feel like every day there's a new test, a new experiment, a new study that comes out that says social media is good, social media is bad. But there's a few things that are just consistent when it comes to social media and how it directly relates to overall dissatisfaction that people feel in their lives. And I have been there myself. I have been there myself where sometimes overconsumption of social media has led me to just incredible low days, just apathy and not feeling joy, not being able to get out of bed some days. And that is because an overindulgence of social media. So, understanding the science behind how these social media platforms are designed, understanding why they're built that way will really kind of help us make social media work for us. There are a lot of positives of social media, which we're going to talk about, but there's also a lot of negatives. And a lot of how you navigate through the negatives and take benefits of the positives is going to come down to a lot of self control, a lot of self discipline, and just a lot of willpower and a decision that you have to make as an individual that is on social media. You have to kind of have that boundary that you set for yourself on how much social media is good, what kind of content do you want to consume, or if you're a creator, how often do you want to create, what kind of content do you want to create, why are you creating. So these are the questions that, as every single individual, and it's going to be different, right? It's going to be different for everybody because we're all not the same. We all want different things from life, and we all have different tolerance levels for different things. And so that's what we're going to talk about on this podcast, on this episode. And I'm so happy that you're here. So, welcome to the Mindset Mentors podcast. I am your host, Nikki K. And I hope in this episode you're able to get something out of this that will at least shift your mindset towards how you approach social media and then how you can use that knowing to overall have a better life experience for yourself because social media isn't going to go away. Oh my God, there's a bird. Social media is not going to go away. So, just like AI, right? The more we learn how to work with social media is just going to be overall a better experience for us. So, let's get into the episode. I did a little experiment over the last month of September where I just kind of wanted to clean up my social media hygiene. There were certain things that I was honestly not proud of. I wasn't proud of my screen time on social media. I wasn't proud of how I was always thinking about how to create and reform my content so that it is more palpable to people, so I can get more reach on my content. And a lot of my time was consumed in this mental kind of process. And I just got to a point where I was just tired. And August and September in general, as you guys know, like I've been trying to get through some massive, massive personal life changes. For example, one of them was quitting alcohol. The other was to just kind of jump into more of my fitness journey, eating healthy. So August and September were pretty big months in kind of just overall trying to become a better person for myself. And a part of that was social media. I was spending way too much time on social media, and I got to a point where I started feeling like the amount of time that I was spending on social media, it didn't really give me any returns. There was nothing really positive that I was getting out of it. There was nothing really that was life enhancing or life changing in any way, other than my general life satisfaction just going down. And I really did not like this person that I was becoming through social media. I found myself, constantly looking at other people's lives, looking at other people's business models, trying to compare myself, trying to match up to doing a lot of things that other people were doing. And I just did not like who I was becoming. I did not like the kind of envy and jealousy and comparison and all these low vibrational negative feelings that I was feeling within me. And I knew that this was a direct result of social media because there was literally nothing else in my physical reality that would inflict these kind of feelings from within me. I have the best group of friends, the most healthiest, calm, loving group of friends that only give me joy anytime I'm around them. I have a beautiful, blessed life. I have a beautiful, blessed family. My parents are just amazing. I have a great relationship with myself in terms of like my body and trying to be fit and all of that. So there was literally nothing that in my physical reality of people that were in my life that was causing these feelings to arise. So it was obviously a direct reflection of social media to a point where I realized that certain habits that I was performing or doing with social media was actually a form of self-abuse. And once I made this shift within my mindset of engaging in certain behaviors, such as I'm going to talk about it, engaging in certain types of these behaviors is actually a form of self-abuse, that I was able to just take a step back and realize that I need to make some significant changes here. Okay, so a form of self-abuse when it comes to social media is when we stalk people on social media. And especially when we stalk people that you know are triggering for you, especially when you stalk, for example, like exes, obviously is not a good thing. When you stalk, people that you don't speak to in general anymore, it's not a good thing. When you stalk people from high school, like who the f cares, But these are things that trigger certain emotions within us. And a lot of the times when we stalk people on social media, we are kind of doing that to ourselves, right? That is something that is in our control. Like going and looking up certain people on social media is just to see what they're up to and then kind of seeing like how we match up to them. That is a very triggering response that your body is going to have for to it. It's going to have a lot of anxiety that comes up. It's going to have maybe feelings of inadequacy that comes up, feelings of being extremely self-critical and feelings of not feeling like you're good enough, not feeling like you're enough, not feeling like you're doing anything of value in the world. So these are emotions that come up because these are very, very deep insecurities and triggers that are within us. And when we stalk people, that is something that is in our control that we don't have to engage in. But when you tell yourself that stalking people on social media is a form of self abuse, you are more likely to stop engaging in that behavior because that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. When you stalk someone on social media, you are triggering a very deep sense of response within your body that is not net positive. So why do it? Right? Why are you harming yourself? Think of stalking people on social media as a form of self-harm. That will take you away from the habit of of engaging in it. Okay? Number 2, I mean there's so many people that I talked about already, but I have to mention it, which is doom scrolling, right? We all do it. And the science behind doom scrolling is that when you scroll so much on a 10, 15 second, 30-second reel or whatever, your brain is releasing dopamine, which is a feel good hormone. So, what happens is when you scroll so much that your brain runs out of the dopamine that it has reserved for a particular day. So, when you're spending 2, 3 hours scrolling on through social media, your brain literally runs out of dopamine. So, which is why nothing in your physical reality, when you finally decide to put your phone down, nothing is exciting to you anymore. Nothing gives you a feeling of, I want to go out and do this, or I want to go out or hang out with my friends. Like, you don't have that exciting feelings within you because your brain literally does not have the power and the physical dopamine that it needs to make you feel that feelings of pleasure. So that's another form of self abuse, right? Scrolling so much that you are allowing your brain to get fried. And again, net positive of that being literally nothing because most content that is actually very, most videos that you consume through doom scrolling is not really a net positive. You're not really learning anything from it. You're not really getting anything of life changing advice or anything from it. Mostly, I'm not saying all of it. I mean, there are some content, and I'm going to talk about how you can reprogram your algorithm to make it more net positive. But mostly, when you're doom scrolling, you're not really learning anything of much value, and your brain is just over processing and frying and rotting, which is why you get that feeling of depression or that feeling of apathy or that feeling of just nothing else in your physical reality giving you that excitement. But this is reversible. It is reversible when you just limit your time on doom scrolling. Your brain will be able to again refill the dopamine that it needs and refill the reservoir of dopamine so that when you do other things which are probably more healthy for you, like working out or going for a walk or reading a book or meeting up with friends or going to a coffee shop, those acts, those activities will make you feel excited again. And the only way that you can do that is by taking a step back from scrolling through social media. The third reason why social media can be a form of self abuse or misusing social media is a form of self abuse, especially if you are a creator. And I think at this point, there are just so many creators that this would probably apply to more than 50% of people who are on social media, because I think everyone at this point is a creator, is that you have to understand how these platforms are designed. Okay. These platforms are designed basically as a digital slot machine. So, for example, let's say that you are a creator and you're trying to post content on social media, you're trying to get people to view it, likes, comments, followers, so on and so forth. So, what these social media platforms do is that in the beginning, let's say that you have just now opened up a new social media page and you're going to start creating. The first 10 posts that you make may not get any return. Okay, but you still have enough of excitement in you to keep going on this journey. So you keep posting, 10, 20, 30 posts, and then that 31st post will go viral. Okay, and no, I the 31st post isn't so much more valuable in terms of the value that you provide in that piece of content compared to the 30 other posts before that. Not that that piece of content is of more value, it's just that the platform, the algorithm is designed to push that out to a lot more people, and it goes viral. Okay, so what happens in that moment when that 31st post goes viral is you get a dopamine hit, a really massive dopamine hit, right? Because you're like, oh my goodness, like I'm finally going viral. This means that I have made it. This means that I have now arrived. And then you get so excited and you're so recharged to continue to keep posting. And then again, maybe the 32nd post, the 33rd post, yes, it gets just as much virality, but just not as much as the 31st post. So you start thinking, oh, okay, so like this 31st post got, I don't know, 2 million views, but this 32nd post only got, I don't know, 1 million views. Okay, so you immediately start comparing yourself to how your that one viral piece of content did. And now you're always going to be, because that new baseline is set in your psyche of how high of a reach you can have. Every other post that you make after that, you're going to be running after those views and those likes and those comments, right? That visibility. And then what the platforms are again designed to do is to keep you on this digital slot machine, where after another 50 posts, you don't get as much traction, you don't get as many views. And it doesn't mean that those pieces of content aren't necessarily bad pieces of content. It's just that the algorithm isn't programmed to give you that dopamine hit because it wants to keep you in that hamster wheel of running after views and continuously posting. Something that's really scary that I found on TikTok and through Instagram is the number of people that are advising other people to post 20 to 30 times a day, which is absolutely insane. 20 to 30 times a day. So then they will get one video that goes viral. And sure, this might work for 1 out of 8 people, but what about the rest of the other people that they're just sitting there posting constantly? It is a form of a slot machine because you're posting, 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 just like you would play, play, play at a slot machine, and hoping that you're finally going to get that hit. You're finally going to get that one video that goes viral that's going to change your life. It's absolutely insane. It's insane. We have to start calling out certain acts that we perform on social media, call it out for what it is. Posting consistently on social media so that you will get a viral hit and then you will get followers is such a trap that so many people run into. And I really do feel for the younger generation because I think younger people don't have the kind of awareness that we as, people in their 30s and maybe 40s as creators have. And if it's something that even we struggle with because we were just oblivious to what was actually happening, I really do feel for the younger generation. If you think about it, right, even to really gamble, you need to be over the age of 18 in most places. I think it's 21 in other places. But even to gamble, you need to be over the age of 18. But with kids younger than 18, posting on social media so they go viral is insane to me. It's so damaging. It's so harmful, and especially for a young person on social media that doesn't have a sense of self, that doesn't have a full identity developed yet, and doesn't have the confidence to kind of separate what's real life and what's not. And the social media being a form of a popularity contest, it's incredibly damaging, and it's a form of self-abuse, honestly, because you are gambling end of the day. And I'm aware, we don't need more people pointing out problems about social media. We need solutions. And that's why I'm here, because I'm going to tell you, in the a month-ish that I took off from social media where I wasn't posting, not doom scrolling, and I didn't delete the apps because I still have friends on the apps that communicate with me on a daily basis. And I love my friends and I need my friends, you know? It makes me so happy to communicate with my friends. So I didn't delete the app, but I significantly limited the number of times I was scrolling, and I significantly limited the number of times I was even thinking about posting or even creating content within that platform. The one thing that I noticed is that the amount of time that you get when you go off social media it's almost like the perception of time slows down. And it's so interesting because as people, as a collective, we have been hearing people talk about how fast time is moving. And I was definitely one of them. I was like, oh my God, like time is going by so fast. Like, how is it already September? You know? And this is a common kind of complaint that we hear from most people like, oh my God, time is going so fast. But when I got off social media, what I realized is that time actually slows down. Time significantly slowed down. Time started to feel like normal times again. Time started to feel like I was back in my childhood days when time was slower, and you had so much more time, or the perception of time, to do things that you actually cared about. So that's one thing. Time significantly slowed down, and I had so much more time to do other things in my life without feeling rushed. I had time to read books, I had time to work on certain projects, I had time to get my workouts in, I had time to cook, I had time to go down to see my friends, and I just had more time and everything just felt slower, which was so nice because we don't realize in this go 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 world, and especially with scrolling and social media, how what the big part that social media plays actually in our perception of time. So that was one for sure, and I loved that. Just having to feel like I had more time to just live my life. Another thing that does happen when you go off social media and you don't have any other activities or anything planned yet because you now have more time, there is also boredom that kicks in. And usually when we are faced with boredom, we that's when we're more likely to get on social media and start scrolling. But because I was not allowed to go on social media and scroll when I was bored, I just kind of leaned into the boredom. I just leaned into it. And what started happening is that from that place of boredom, new ideas started to come to me. New ideas for the book that I'm writing, new ideas for, ways that I want to take this podcast and direction that I want to take this podcast in, articles that I'm writing, the kind of new jobs that I'm trying to look for. And overall, new ideas in terms of just life and how I want to live my life. These are the things that I was kind of able to pull from the ether because I was more perceptive and more open to my present moment and being okay with being bored, being okay with being in silence, being okay with just not having anything to do. And it's an incredible experience because my intuition also I felt like was developing. I just had a better overall sense of clarity on what I wanted from my life and where I see myself going. So don't be afraid of the boredom. And the boredom is only going to last for until you kind of figure out the next thing that you want to do. And you'll actually start liking the boredom. You'll actually start looking at it as more of peace and just more clarity. The brain fog kind of lifts when you're not always bombarded with videos and content and everyone just speaking on the internet. So that's a huge plus that I felt. Another thing that I did notice is that my openness to people in general got significantly better. For example, like if I would go to a coffee shop, instead of being on my phone or scrolling on my phone, realized that I was starting to make conversation with people that are either behind me or in front of me online waiting to order coffee. I realized that I was more present while watching TV shows and movies, which really allowed me to like get into the depth of the storyline and understand the characters. I was able to spend more time with my friends. I was able to spend more quality time with my family. I was able to just spend more quality time with myself. And overall, just being off of social media was a net positive. Okay, it is a net positive, and I know that we all know this, right? Like we all know social media is bad. We all know doom scrolling is bad. We all know that we should limit ourselves, and we all know this. But what the difference is between knowing something and actually embodying it is that level of self-discipline. And from a spiritual sense, spirituality is discipline. Spirituality, yes, is self love. It's self respect. It's all of that. but it's also self discipline. And there's a very thin line between self love and self coddling. And what a lot of us do is when sometimes we tend to engage a lot more in self coddling behaviors, which one of them being social media. And we have to kind of have enough awareness within us to catch ourselves when we are going down that path of self coddling and become the parents to ourselves to control the playful, out and wild, running around inner child and kind of become our own parents and have and enforce that kind of self discipline within us. Because what happens when you are of someone with self discipline, with a strict schedule for yourself, with a sense of clarity for your life, what happens is that all of a sudden your brain that's always scattering around, that's always looking externally, or it's always comparing and feeling like it's not enough and feeling like it's not doing enough, and then going out there and overworking itself and overburning itself. What happens is that there's a loss of focus. And when you're able to build that kind of self-discipline within you to sit down with yourself and ask yourself, what is it that I want from my life? And then point out, be so honest with yourself, point out, for if you need to write it down, write it down. Write down what are certain behaviors that you're engaging in that you know are bad for you. Okay? A lot of the times we actually play the biggest part in our own misery. We are the ones that are standing in front of our own happiness, and we self-sabotage because we're lazy, because we sometimes feel like we don't deserve certain things in our lives. We sometimes just would rather just take the easier path, and we love instant gratification, which are all of the things that social media gives us, right? So be so real with yourself, be honest with yourself, make a list of actions that you need to make and start small. I'm not saying quit social media overnight and go cold turkey. I certainly did not do that. But the more I started to see the benefits of stepping off the treadmill of social media where I was posting all the time, or stepping off the treadmill and kind of just getting a perspective of the net negatives that were happening in my life and the net negative feelings that I was feeling through engaging in certain self abusive social media behaviors, I just now know how much better my life has gotten without social media. And there are certain positive ways that you can use social media, which is what I do. For example, like I have trained my algorithm to only show me things that I care about. So, for example, right now I'm really focused on my health and eating healthy and working out. So, I go out of my way to search for that type of content. So, the algorithm kind of knows that that's what I'm interested in. So, I've been learning so much in that sense of how to eat better, how to work out better. Another thing that I really care about is spirituality and self development. So I actually search certain things on social media that will again let the algorithm know that I'm interested in either certain philosophies or certain influencers and certain creators who are on that path of self development and spirituality. So the algorithm shows me that type of content. Yeah, and it's just about that, right? It's just about you figuring out what it is that you need to make your life better, and then you make social media work for you rather than you becoming a slave to it. Another thing that I did and I will continue to do through my own social media page, and if you are a creator, I highly recommend you do that as well, which is I post my content and then I literally delete the app. Because as someone who has a tendency to doom scroll and I'm getting out of it and I've made significant progress, I don't need to look at the app. It's more of like when the app is on your phone is when you're going to more likely in that moment of boredom pick up your phone and start scrolling. So that's what I do. I post my content because I do want to build my community, and I do have a lot of benefits that I reap from posting on social media. I post my shit and then I delete the app and I leave until I need to maybe post again in a couple days and I come back. Or if I'm in a conversation with my friends, I keep that conversation going through DMs and so on and so forth. So limit your time. Hiding the app from your phone or deleting the app from your phone is one way to do that as well. But end of the day, we are all we all have free will. End of the day, we get to decide the kind of life we want to live, the lifestyle we want to live, and we have to make conscious efforts towards that. And that's why I wanted to make this episode, because I'm not the only one struggling with social media. I know so many people that do, and people on social media themselves, strangers that complain about how much time they're spending on social media. So this is a universal problem that exists, and we really can improve our lives, and we have the free will and the power within us and the self-discipline to be able to do that. So I hope you were able to get something out of this episode. I will come back either next week or the following week with a new episode. Like I said, I only talk about things that I feel will add actual value in the world, and I only talk about things that I feel like I'm qualified to talk about. And my qualification comes from me being on the ground, doing the work, learning the lessons, integrating those lessons, and then being able to bring it to you in a more from a more embodied side, if that makes sense. But thank you guys. I will see you guys later. This is Nikki K signing out. Bye.